My peoples, welcome to Rant and Randomness. I'm Luvvie Ajayi, your side-eye sorceress and ranter-in-chief. On this episode, I'm bringing you an interview that I had with Elaine Welteroth, former editor-in-chief of Teen Vogue, journalist, and a judge on Project Runway. And now she's also a New York Times best-selling author. Her book, More Than Enough, dropped on June 11th, and my girl made it on the list. Flex on them, Elaine. In this conversation, Elaine talks to me about growing up as the girl who always knew what she wanted to be, being an intern who never left and ended up promoting herself, and her journey in this topsy-turvy media world. I'm so proud of her, and I'm excited for you to listen in. So come on through and listen to New York Times bestselling author Elaine Welteroth and I in conversation. Let's jump in. Rants fam, I am so excited to have my girl Elaine Welteroth joining us on this episode. Elaine, yay!
Yay! I'm so excited to basically do what we do offline on your podcast.
Exactly, all of our shenanigans.
Exactly.
So I'm going to give people your bio because, they already know you're epic, but I'm going to present it to them. Elaine Welteroth is an award-winning journalist, author, and judge on the new Project Runway. She was most recently editor-in-chief of Teen Vogue, where she in 2017 became the youngest person ever appointed editor-in-chief, and in 2012 had been the first African-American ever to hold the post of beauty and health director at a Condé Nast publication. Prior to Teen Vogue, she was a senior beauty editor at Glamour and the beauty and style editor at Ebony. She's now a leading expert and advocate for the next generation of change makers. She's written for the hit show Grownish and has appeared on camera for a range of media outlets, including ABC News and Netflix. And she just dropped her debut book, More Than Enough, which, yes, Elaine, we out here, author, come on, published author, you know what I mean? So I'm excited to have you. Hey, girl.
Hey, girl. Listen, if your girl doesn't hype you like Luvvie just hyped me, you need to find a new team, to find a new crew.
Look, we gotta be the biggest hype squad. It's like, yes, that's my homie, yay. Oh man. So I starting every episode by asking my guests, like, what did you want to do or be when you were growing up?
Oh man. The journey to figuring out the answer to that question is in my book, because it ain't easy. I wasn't one of those, people who popped out of the womb knowing exactly what I wanted to do or be in the world. But I remember being, really young, and my mom would, during bath time, where most kids would have their moms like reading them stories, my story time was me being the imaginary interviewer of imaginary celebrities in the bathtub. So I would pretend to be like Oprah or Barbara Walters, interviewing everybody from Diana Ross to Gandhi to Michael Jackson. I would just make up these like elaborate, interviews. And so it's so funny because, I think that when we all look back and look at our childhood and how we played, there are so many clues there that can point you in the direction of your purpose and your passions. And I think as you get older, those things can get beat out of you. And so,
right.
If you're lucky, you get to a point where you can fight back and reclaim kind of that little girl, that person that you were before the world started putting limitations on the way you dreamed. So all that to say, I didn't even know that there was a job title called magazine editor or beauty editor or even editor-in-chief. I didn't even know that existed. I grew up in a very small town in Northern California where, most people don't really ever leave, or they definitely don't dream of moving to New York City or working for a magazine one day. So, it was a process to understanding that this is something I could do. I just didn't have a lot of examples of role models, people who look like me doing it big like that,
And
so
you went from playing with toys and interviewing in the bathroom to doing what you do now. So what was little Elaine like?
Little Elaine was enterprising and relentless, and I think I've always been ambitious. I write about this in my book. I have a chapter called Brown Girl Boss, and it tells the story of me in fourth grade, making my own beauty salon in the backyard of my best friend's house. And so I'm like, I don't know when we went from just playing to like being hardcore, little brown girl bosses back there we weren't even making money, but we were about our business. We built this salon with, scrap cardboard, that we had gone around the cul-de-sac knocking on doors, asking people for, which then became like the building blocks of our space. We built our like front desk, and then we would, steal her mom's folded sheets, and like we put those up, and they would be the dividers between our little stations where we did hand massages and head massages and hair styling and nail polish. We stole her sister's nail polish out of her caboodles to build this salon. And it's so funny because we even made our own little fake cigarettes that we would buy from quote unquote buy from our own little store in the backyard, and then we'd go around the back of the house and light up our fake cigarettes. Because in my mind, that's sort of like what you do when you're the boss of your own life. You run your business and you can smoke if you want to. And it's so funny because I look back, I'm like, gosh, I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit. And in some way, I think that salon was also us asserting ourselves in an otherwise really white community. We were both two brown girls. She was Mexican. I was, a black girl, mixed race girl. And it was sort of our way of adding value to the community, to be seen by these other girls. And eventually some of them even came and started working for us and with us. So I think it's a bit foreshadowing, to look back and see kind of who I was as a little kid, because eventually I did become that boss lady that I had dreamed of being one day.
You became the person you didn't see at that point. You post on your Insta stories about your mom and your family all the time, and I love it. And I always wonder how your family kind of instilled and turned you into this Elaine, because a lot of times we see where people are today and we never really know their story. Your mom is dope and is in your Insta stories all the time. She's like the biggest hype woman ever. So what character traits did she instill in you, and do you still see that in yourself?
Okay, I'm so glad you're asking me this question, because my mom is the dopest. She is the hero of my story, honestly. I think people might come to this book for me, but you're going to walk away just like loving my mom. She's like who this book is really about, because in so many ways she shaped the person that I am. And I owe so much of the best parts of me to her. I think, as a young Black girl in a predominantly white town, neighborhood, it was really important for me to have a Black mom who was proud of who she was, who was strong and sensitive, and parents who collectively created space for me to explore my identity and to be creative and to, they never made me feel like I had to fit into a box. I think the world outside does that enough. They never made me feel like that. And same for my brother. I mean, he is a punk rocker and has always been since he came out the womb. I feel like he came out the womb with an electric guitar, and he takes after my dad a lot, who's, like an acoustic guitar playing hippie white guy. And my mom's this gospel singing Black woman who was raised in the South, raised in the Black church, born in the South. And so my brother is this brown punk rock kid who never really fit in any spaces, but he was never about conforming. He was always about staying true to who he is. And so I had a lot of role models in my household who encouraged just being an individual. And my parents, while they were raised, like their generation, their experience of parenting was like, keep a child in their place, tell them that they can speak when spoken to. It was very authoritative. And while my parents definitely were authorities, they allowed us to have a voice, and they allowed us to express ourselves in whatever way we wanted to. And they encouraged us to dream and to be happy. They wanted us to be happy. And I realized later in my life just how much of a gift that really was, because I see with some of my other friends, like their parents were they had more of a prescribed path laid out for them, and there was more pressure on a lot of people in my life from their parents around what they should be and how they should be and what they should do with their careers. And I didn't really have those. I didn't have that. I didn't have those confines that I had to fit into. And then it's still hard to figure out what to do. Sometimes I wish I had more guidance, but in retrospect, I think that the freedom and the liberation that I was raised with was really additive to my evolution.
And you were raised in Cali.
Raised in Cali. I'm a Bay Area girl. Shout out to the 510 folks out there. I'm very California. If you know California people, especially Bay Area people, that I feel like we're good. We're good people. We're down home. There's a lot of humility that we're raised with. We like to dance. I feel like we carry the sunshine with us, and I feel like I brought that California kind of sunny disposition with me to New York, even though now I'm low-key a New Yorker because I've been here for going on 11 years.
Yeah, you are honorary New York. So what'd you major in college?
Okay, so I majored first. I first majored in psychology because.
Oh my God, same.
Same. Because basically we're nosy, right? I mean, that's really what it comes down to. You like to get other people's stories. I felt like ever since I was that little girl in the bathtub, doing these imaginary interviews, I've always just loved pulling the stories out of people. Even as I grew up in college, I found myself as always the girl who was at the college party in the corner, getting someone to tell me their whole life story, pouring out their guts, crying, and we'd be holding each other's hands. I'm like, I'd always tell me more, girl, tell me more. And then what happened, So I was like, maybe I should be a psychologist. And then I realized they don't care about they don't care about style. I'm like, dang, it's so dusty in my psychology classes. No one cares about my outfits. No one, is coming with a look. And that part of me has always been something I wanted to express, and I wanted to explore that in my career. But I also was very intimidated by capital F fashion. The fashion industry just seemed so intimidating to me and so exclusive. And I had no idea how to break into it. So I wanted to find a middle ground, something that would allow me to, express this storytelling and interview and writing, journalistic side of me, but also something that married the part of me that really has a strong sense of aesthetic and for visuals. And, so magazine journalism was actually perfect for me. And I was a magazine junkie growing up. I read Essence magazine religiously growing up. So, to the idea that I could one day be an editor who had, the opportunity to hold the pen and write the narrative around, what young Black women are and what young people of color are today was just an extraordinary dream come true. So, yeah.
So where did you end up? So you got your psych degree, or did you end up getting your degree in magazine?
Oh, my bad. I didn't even answer your freaking question. Okay, so I started out with a psychology degree. I mean, a psychology major, and then I changed majors, and I majored in communications with a concentration in public relations and a minor in journalism because there wasn't a journalism major offered at my school.
Bet. So then you graduated. What was your first job?
So I actually graduated early on accident.
How?
Because, well, listen, it sounds very overachieverish, but I think, okay, let me reword that. I think when I say I graduated from college early, it makes me sound like an overachiever, but really it is the result of making one of the biggest mistakes of my life that has been a regret to this day. Well, I've actually reframed it as it's not a regret. It's something that needed to happen. But I made the cardinal mistake that I tell every young girl to never do, which is this. I followed my high school sweetheart to college.
What? Okay, give me the tea. Give me that tea.
Right. So I write about this story in my book, but so I was this straight A student. I was, senior and junior class president. I was in sports. I was a track runner, did hurdles, did cheerleading. I mean, I was, and I'm also a first generation college student and, a person of color. So I could have gone to my dream school had I applied. I grew up wanting to go to Stanford University, but girl, then I fell in love with the bad boy. and really just got distracted. And I never, ever applied to my dream school. I never applied to a single Ivy League or even a UC. I blindly followed my high school sweetheart to Sacramento State University, which, listen, shout out to my Hornets. I am not ashamed of the school. I'm only disappointed in my younger self for the reason, my motivation for going there, which was following this boy. And then, girl, I got there. Guess what I found out?
What?
This fool wasn't even enrolled.
Stop it. Stop it.
He wasn't even going to class. So here I am now, 18 years old, 17 years old, in, Cowtown, Sacramento, in the middle of California, 2.5 hours away from home. And I got to make it work. And, he did come back. I will say he was a year older than me, and he started going to class again once I arrived, but then ultimately ended up in jail.
Wow.
And there I was, left in Sacramento to my own devices. And so what that taught me is never again will I hand over the wheel to another man. You are the master of your own destiny. You get to be in the driver's seat of your own life. And I'm never handing the wheel over to a man ever again. I think I was operating under this sort of ride or die syndrome mentality that
ride
a
or
lot
die
of us
is
have.
dangerous, yo.
Girl, I write about the ride or die syndrome. I have a whole chapter called Ride or Die Syndrome in my book that goes into this because I think, as successful women, as ambitious women, we rarely talk about our relationships and the role that they play in either helping us get where we're going or actually deterring us and taking us all the way off our tracks. And I was very close to never making it where I wanted to go because of bad relationships and not knowing when to say, where the hell are we going? And you know what? Stop the car. I'm getting out. I'm done riding or dying for you.
Right. I ain't dying. Why is that an option?
I ain't dying with you, brother. So I talk about that in the book, and it's a kind of a vulnerable part of my story because it's so, but it's so real. So many of us go through that. And I even stayed with him when he went to jail. Wow. And while I was in college, I was living this dual reality where I was, trying to maintain this, existence of being this, high achieving student who's trying to make friends in a new environment, just, trying to do well in school. But then by 8 p.m. every night, I had a collect call come into my dorm room that I could not miss. So I was too embarrassed to tell my friends why I had to leave. So I'd make up stories about why I had to leave study group and race back to my dorm, or I would leave parties or not go to parties because I felt like I had to be there for him. And it's something that I talk about because I hope that by telling my truth, these kinds of sort of harder truths to share, vulnerable stories from the past, that hopefully some young girl reading this story who sees herself in me will cycle through that bad relationship faster than I did. I definitely stayed too long. And I think it's important that we as women are able to identify when something is expired and to let it go. Sometimes, things break for a reason because they break so that we can have a breakthrough. And I think we're all raised with this weird mentality. Not weird. I think we're all raised with this mentality to make it work. When you're ambitious, you feel like you can make anything work. But some things aren't meant to work. And it's okay to let it go.
Some things aren't meant to work.
That's right.
That's it.
Some things break on purpose. And it's not up to you to put it back together and to make it work. Sometimes you just got to let it go. And I also think we are raised with this idea that our value is attributed to things outside of ourselves, like the men we date, like the jobs we hold, like the paychecks we earn. And that's just false. We have the value. We are the value. It's all inside of us, and we are enough on our own with or without these things. And it took me time to really understand what that meant, and to let go of things that forced me to shrink, or that threatened my growth. And now I feel like only now, in my early 30s, I feel like standing on all that wisdom gained from my 20s, can I really kind of step into relationships and work with that full confidence. But I certainly didn't have it all in my 20s. I definitely didn't. And who does? You know what I mean?
Nobody. I think we're all kind of pretty foolish in our 20s. I think it's a life's rite of passage to be foolish in your 20s. You have to go through those stupid mistakes because, one, it makes for great books and good stories to tell. But also I think it just really gives you perspective when you're on the other side, because you'll be like, oh, I've already been there, done that, got the T-shirt, and now I can be better. So a lot of people see us soaring and doing all these things. I remember when you were announced as like the editor-in-chief of Teen Vogue and how crazy that went. First of all, walk me through how you got your first magazine job.
So I stalked this woman named Harriet Cole.
Yes, legendary.
Who was at the time, legendary. At the time, she was the editor-in-chief of Ebony. But what really attracted me to her when I found out about her and read her bio was just how multifaceted her career in media was. You know, she started out in magazines, but then she branched out and she became a best-selling author. She had a syndicated radio show. She had, a national column. She was on, all of the big morning shows and had a TV presence. She was able to figure out how to carve out her own lane to be her authentic self across multiple media platforms. And I just that is so inspiring, because to that point, I felt like every job title was so confining and limiting and not fully, couldn't fully capture my sort of unique set of gifts and talents. And I really wanted a job that would be fulfilling and exciting and would kind of ignite my passions. And so I felt really lost in my career struggle in my career journey until I found her right before I graduated. And I stalked her until she gave me an informational interview. I called so many times. Her assistant literally was like on the verge of just being like, I'm about to call the security guard on you. I literally remember telling her, I'll just come bring her coffee next week. Just give me a 15-minute window that works for her. And she's like, don't you live in California? I'm like, yeah, but that's okay. I'll just fly there. It's no big deal. And she's like, do not fly to New York to bring her coffee. Crazy girl. So eventually I got an informational phone call with her, and it changed my life. It was so reinforcing to have a woman that I could see myself in, and for her to take the time to speak with me, it just affirmed everything that I wanted to do and be. And so at the end of the call, I said, if there's ever an opportunity to work with you, please keep me in mind. And we hung up, and I thought, I'll never hear from her again. And honestly, it's okay, because she's already changed my life. I'm off to the races. I have a clear vision for where I'm going. I'm going to, create a game plan A through Z to get there and make it happen. And then, long story short, 5 months later, once I had already locked in the magazine internship of my dreams at Essence, Harriet Cole called me back.
Wow.
And I thought it was a butt dial. I was working at the time. I had graduated early, and my plan was move back home. Scariest thing ever, by the way, for any ambitious college graduate. Moving home is like representative of death. But I was like, it's okay. It's a means to an end. I'm going to use this last semester that I would have had in school to make $10,000. I'm going to save every penny. I got 2 jobs. I worked at a media company in San Francisco at the front desk as a receptionist. And then nights and weekends, I was a waitress serving Stanford University students, by the way. It was right next to my dream school, so it was even more humbling. And I saved every penny so that by June 1st, I could move to New York and work at a magazine as an intern. And that is exactly what happened. I got the Essence internship, and 30 days out before I was getting ready to move to New York for Essence, Harriet Cole called me. And she said, I remembered you. I remembered our phone call, and I'm looking for a new assistant. I have a shoot in Malibu. I remembered that you live in California.
Oh, wow.
So I thought I would reach out and see if you wanted to meet me on set. I'll pay you $250 for the day. You'll be my production assistant.
What?
And if things go well, there could be a job waiting for you in New York City. And I was like, what? How? Wait. I was like, girl, in my head, I was like, I would pay you $250 to work for you for a day.
Right.
Yeah. And so that was sort of the beginning of everything. I went to that set. it turned out to be a cover shoot with Serena Williams, which she did not mention. Yes, girl. It turned out to be a cover shoot. So I was just, and I was just on. I just felt like I am in my element. It was an incredible day. We had great chemistry together. Working as a working relationship, we had great chemistry. And at the end of the day, she offered me the job to come move to New York to work for her as an intern first. And then she said if things go well, it could turn into an assistant role. And so I had my first kind of career dilemma on my hands where I was like, wow, 6 months ago, I had no idea how I was going to make this dream happen. And now I have two of the, most prominent Black magazines, giving me job offers, internship offers. What do I do? And ultimately, I decided to follow the woman and the role model and the mentor who would ultimately give me a richer day-to-day learning experience. And I'm so glad I did. It was a hard decision to make, by the way, because Essence was a sexier choice on the resume. And to all my friends, they were like, why would you work for Ebony? At the time, it was dustier. It was sort of like your auntie uncle magazine, whereas Essence was like the every Black girl magic kind of dream come true, like epitomized in those pages, fashion and beauty. It was more sexy. But I was like, no, this is a God thing. Finding out about Harriet was a God thing. Like having Harriet remember me and call me back and give me this opportunity to work on a cover shoot at, 17, 18 years old. Or no, sorry, I was 19 years old, I think, 18. Wow. How old are you when you graduated from this? Anyway, the point is, like, coming out the gates, having these kinds of opportunities was more valuable to me in the long run, and I could see that. So I had to call Essence, and I had to say, I'm going to work for Ebony. And I started my career there as Harriet Cole's summer intern, and then eventually became her assistant and kind of worked my way up the masthead from there.
What did you find has always been the thing that served you the most in these positions that really allowed you to rise up the ranks?
Saying yes. Saying yes and finding ways to add value beyond the call of duty. I think that's the biggest thing. I was actually my first promotion. I actually gave it to myself. There's a funny story that I do write in my book about how I actually went from being a paid intern at $10 an hour to becoming an actual staff magazine editor. And basically, my internship was supposed to end August 31st.
Okay.
But no one told me to leave. So then I just kept coming, and miraculously I just kept getting a paycheck, and then I never said anything, and no one else ever said anything. So I just kept working. So then, like, September comes, October, November, I'm still getting paid. So eventually, I just decide, okay, I'm going to change the title in my signature to production assistant, because that's kind of what I am, So I kind of just gave myself a little fraudulent promotion. And then the craziest thing, Luvvie, is that then people started calling me production assistant. And then I was like, it was like legitimized weirdly. It was like I spoke it into existence. I made it happen. Suddenly I'm the production assistant. Boom. No one said anything. And then eventually I leveraged that to get a real promotion. I said yes to everything. I took on so many things and I was adding so much value that by the time they realized, wait a minute, this girl was an intern. She was supposed to leave months ago. Like, how is she even still here? It was sort of like, well, damn, now we need her. We need her. We can't imagine not having this kind of support. So how do we figure out how to pay her and keep her? And so I was able to leverage in the middle, by the way, in the middle of the recession. This was 2008. So it was right when like everyone was losing their jobs. And it was really, there was a lot of, sort of income insecurity. And it was a difficult time for anyone to keep a job, let alone to get a promotion. So, but I went in there, I was bold. I was very millennial. It was in terms of the stereotype. I went in there and I said, you know what? I'm so grateful for this opportunity. But I know I'm adding, I basically went in there and I asked for a proper promotion and a raise, and I got it. I was able to double my income overnight in the middle of the recession for a job I actually technically didn't even have.
That is amazing.
It's crazy. It's kind of crazy. Looking back, I'm like, I don't recommend that approach. It was kind of a miracle that it worked for me. But yeah, that's how it happened. But it's hard work. It is hard work. It is. I pulled many late nights. I stayed after midnight the majority of the time I worked at Ebony, just trying to build infrastructure, just trying to also help us be seen in a media world that is really plagued by racism. I mean, I felt like I started from the bottom of the bottom as an intern at Ebony. We were at the bottom of the media hierarchy. And so I kind of came in as an underdog, and I really wanted to help the industry see the value of Black media. And I had to fight for every single thing that we got. I had to fight for invitations to Fashion Week. I had to wheel and deal to get, videographers to trail me backstage at fashion shows, to work for free. We were operating with limited budget and limited manpower. And I think all of that training was actually so important. I know I would not have climbed the ranks, at Condé Nast once I eventually got there without that kind of training. And so I tell everyone who's starting out in their career, just say yes to everything and do not chase the sexy. You have to follow your instincts and follow the opportunities that are going to be richer learning experiences day to day, because they're going to help you leapfrog in your career long term.
You showed up, you made yourself indisposable. You ended up getting promoted, and nobody realized you weren't supposed to be there because you made sure you were actually going to be there. So then you end up at Condé Nast and then end up as editor-in-chief, like youngest editor-in-chief. First of all, how did that change your life?
I mean, it changed my life in a lot of ways. When I got that promotion, I was 29 years old. I had never thought that I would have an opportunity like that at that point in my career trajectory. I thought it would take many more years and maybe even decades to get there, but we live in a very different time. And, excuse me, we live in a very different time now. And I just remember that day, what really meant the most was the resounding support from my community and the people, that Black people on Black Twitter. Black Twitter like really showed up and showed out that day. I have to say, I looked at my phone, and while on the reality is, and I write about this in the book, I was dealing with a kind of tricky negotiation, which I won't leave any spoilers. I will let you guys read the book, but it was a kind of a tricky time for me internally. But the beauty and the most triumphant aspect of that moment was looking at my phone and seeing my tribe of support way out there in the world, people I had never met who were celebrating with me. And I recognized that I am in this seat for them. I am here to represent for my people and for my community. And I, as difficult as it is to be a first or to be the youngest or the only to do something, when you remember that you walk into those rooms, not as one, but as one of thousands, and you have your people behind you, man, it makes you so much more bold and courageous. And I needed that kind of support at that time. It was a tricky time in my career, but it was also the most incredible. And I think one thing we don't talk about, we love to celebrate a first. We love to see each other, rise up the ranks in any industry, and that's so important to do. It's so important to hold each other up, and to celebrate each other's shine. But we also have to create space for, the underside of a dream realized, and we need to be able to create space for talking about sometimes the highest highs happen at the same time as the lowest lows. And how do you navigate that duality? And how do you, we live in a world where we're watching each other's success stories play out online, but you're only seeing a tiny slice of the truth. And so I think that's why I really wanted to write this book, to tell more of the story that can never fit in a pithy Instagram caption or, a tweet. I think it's important for us to share our full truth and to share the why and the how behind the what you think you know when you see these headlines and when you see the highlight reels. And so that's what this book is really about.
Yes, and I took it to Mexico and I was reading it on the beach and I loved how I just
casual. I like it. You just dropped that in. Just, I just read this book on the beach in Mexico. Let them know, Luvvie. Let them know about that Luvvie lifestyle.
First of all, don't even, Elaine,
yes,
the slight work, I'm just saying, okay, because I had to take a mini sabbatical, and having your book and just reading through all the things you've basically been through, it's the perfect time for More Than Enough to drop. I think nowadays, as everybody sees all the glitz and the glamour, but they don't really understand all the stuff that goes through, because even your Teen Vogue ascent, it didn't come with smooth roads. It wasn't just all the hype. So I'm really glad that you wrote the book and that is dropping now, and you are a constant source of inspiration. For those who listen to Rant to Randomness, if you also listen to my other podcast, Jesus and Your Love, you know Elaine Welteroth is the reason why we started that podcast. We're going to put that on Elaine's Wikipedia. She is the reason why.
Right.
But yeah, no, your book is dope.
Co-founder of
you are the spiritual co-founder of Jesus and John. Elaine, after we abused Elaine,
one of my proudest accomplishments, by the way.
I'm saying it has to be, because you are the catalyst of foolishness. That's ultimately what you did there. You were the catalyst of foolishness. So your book dropped June 11th, so people can get it everywhere where books are sold. We want to turn Elaine into a New York Times bestseller.
I'm just trying to keep up with Luvvie, y'all. You know what I mean? Luvvie she just came out the gate as a first-time author, making that New York Times bestsellers list. And by the way, thank you, Luvvie, because I want to shout you out. This is a time where I get a chance to say thank you to you, not just for supporting me in this moment, but for being a part of my journey. And you know, you've been an inspiration to me, not just because of your success, which P.S., yes, I am trying to be a New York Times bestseller like you, but also we've been on a spiritual journey.
Yeah.
And everything that happens in your career, in my mind, is a manifestation of a deeper spiritual evolution. And I remember I was going through kind of a difficult time in my career, and we were talking offline about it, and you gave me a devotional that I read every morning. It is a game changer for anyone listening to this podcast. Yo, do yourself and your girlfriend a favor and do what Luvvie did for me, which is get this devotional. Please get my book too, but also get this devotional. It's called Jesus Calling.
Yeah, Jesus Calling.
And honestly, Luvvie, it's like you changed my life just with that gift. And I'd never had a friend buy me a book before, let alone a devotional. And it was sort of early in our friendship when you did that, but it left a huge impression on me about the kind of sister you are. And, you know, we do a lot of cheering for each other on social media, but you backed it up in real life, and you've done that for me many times. And so I just want to shout you out. And, you know, I hope that people listening to this podcast, they already are inspired by you, but do something for your sisterhood, like pay it forward and get that devotional and my book, my book for your girl, because it's like a gift that keeps on giving. And since you gave that to me, I've given it to other people. I've found myself like taking pictures of those devotional pages and sending it to folks like Ava DuVernay or my girl. I have a whole
slice flex
group text. Yeah, I have. Well, you know, she wrote my foreword, so I have to shout her out.
She did.
No, but yeah, I mean, I send that to my girlfriends, and it's such a source of inspiration. So,
I'm so happy I could do that for you. And honestly, my whole thing is I want to see us all win. And I know we all go through some of these struggles siloed. And I'm really encouraged that now, even though we might be the first and the only in certain industries, because we have each other, we can then lean on each other and be like, yo, we're going through the same struggles, or we're at the same level. Let's help each other grow.
Yep.
So I'm really I'm glad you've fed me. You've helped my career too. And as a friend, like I know I can tap on you whenever things pop up. So that's for me is a gift. So yeah, I always ask my guests, what are you doing to take care of yourself? So now, you know, book launch time is nuts, right? Book launch time is insane. And you're doing 1,000 things and you're on Project Runway and all of this stuff. What is the Elaine self-care routine?
Ooh, it's such a good question. I do two things, and they're very simple. One is I try to prioritize my sleep because I'm just a better human, and I just can function at a higher level, and everyone around me benefits when I have gotten my rest. So I try to really fight for that time. I mean, right now I will tell you, I stayed out till Auntie E stayed out till 4 a.m. the other night after the CFDAs, and girl, I feel like I will never recover. I am so exhausted. But last night I slept for 10 hours because I was like, I have to get this back. I have to get back into a good place. So sleep is super important. That devotional is a big part of my devotion. That devotional is a big part of my self-care routine. I try to carve out a few minutes, even if it's just 5 minutes every morning, to read it, to spend time with it, to spend time with the Holy Spirit, to breathe. I think that devotional does a really good job of reframing challenges and putting you in a more grateful, centered place. And it just reminds you that the Holy Spirit is with you in everything that you're doing.
Yes.
And it reminds me in this new chapter of my life, like the Holy Spirit is my agent, my manager, my publicist, my business manager, my accountant. Like, I have everything I need. So I can operate from a place of abundance and not from scarcity when I am out in the world, negotiating for myself or stepping into, scary spaces, which I don't really feel that way. I feel like I'm in a really good place right now. But sometimes you feel like you need things that are outside of yourself. You need support. You need this and that. It's like you have it. You have it in the Holy Spirit. And I think that your devotional reminds me of that. And then the other thing is just, and it's going to be cheesy for some of y'all who maybe, don't judge me, but and actually, Luvvie, you'll feel me on this because you are an engaged woman, but I find that just being able to spend time with my partner, Jonathan, does so much for my freaking sanity. Like, just to have a friend at the end of the day, every day, who sees you, who cares, who will just laugh with you. Like, my favorite thing in life at the end of the day is just to lay in bed and laugh with Jonathan before I go to bed. It just melts off the stress. It kind of like reframes everything, puts things in perspective. And waking up with him and being able to ask each other, like, what are you grateful for? Those things do so much. And I try to work out. I try to do the meditation. I try to do all these other things. But you know what? Those things I may or may not get to them. But as long as I do those three things, sleep, read my devotional, and spend time with my love, I'm good.
Yes, I love that. Yes, that's it. We got to make sure our cups are not empty. We got to fill our spirit. So even if you ain't got no time for no massages and working out, at least you're doing that to fill your spirit so your heart can be full. Exactly. But I aspire to a 2.0 self-care regimen, which would include massages once a week on Sundays, like working out 5 days a week. I love doing bar classes and Pilates when I can fit it in. I'm trying to work on this booty, so I'm trying to do some squats. The track booty daily. Is really important, okay?
Dog. Skinny girls, I mean, we really, it's hard out here in these streets.
It's hard.
But I'm working on it.
Listen.
But yeah, so hopefully during the book tour, hopefully I will step up my self-care game because I know from what I hear from other authors, I'm going to need it.
Yeah, girl, you're going to need it. But I'm really thrilled for you, and I am excited that your book is out in the world and people get to see it and read it. So, yes, y'all, support Elaine. Let's see another Black girl be on the list. And always proud of you, and I love you dearly, and I'm very, very happy to support anything that you do.
Thank you. And y'all come out to Chicago and see Luvvie on stage with me during my book tour stop.
June 28th. Come see us in Chicago. It's me and Elaine on a stage. Let's do this.
It'll be fun. More of this.
Girl. Yes, girl. So, yes, love you and proud.
Love you.
Proud.
Thank you so much. Proud
Indeed.
of you. All right, I'll see you soon. I'll see you in Chicago.
Bye.
Bye.
Yo, shout out to Elaine Welteroth for joining me. She is doing so many things on so many levels. Author, writer, cultural activist. Y'all follow her on social media. She is at Elaine Welteroth on Instagram and Twitter. That's ELAINE Welteroth. Yo, go show her some love. Congratulate her on hitting the New York Times bestselling list, and let her know what this interview gave you in terms of the gems she was dropping. Much love to Chicago Recording Company for partnering with me on my podcast, and subscribe to Rants and Randomness on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, wherever you get it. Please rate it. If you leave a review, it just might be featured on the show. Follow the podcast on social media. On Twitter, we are at Rants Randomness. On Instagram, we are at Rants and Randomness. And if you feel like emailing me, LuvvieRants@gmail.com is the email address. As always, y'all follow me on social media. I am at Luvvie everywhere. See you on the next episode.